WCW Monday Nitro number 160, also October 5th, 1998. The show took forever to get going. First we got an ad for Halloween Havoc. I'm not making that up.
With Chucky.
Chucky's laughter's in there. They're talking about who's this laughing person. The production truck doesn't know who it is. Then the Nitro Girls danced. Then the pyro goes off. Then Tony talks about the laugh some more. Then recap like month-old Bret Hart stuff. Clips from August. First match is Saturn versus Liz Mark Jr. The bell rings to open the match. The show is 8 minutes and 55 seconds old. It took them forever to get into this match. And then worse, the match started. Liz Mark was awful on this night. Is he always this bad?
Dude, okay, so Liz Mark Jr. fucking sucked, okay? And every time he's in the ring, he fucking sucks. I watched him in this match, and he fucking sucked so bad that I'm not sure this was the actual Liz Mark Jr. That's how bad he was.
Huh. This was the emergency backup second string Liz Mark Jr.?
Like, this was a guy who... This was like... What was that fucker's name for the NWA show that we just watched? The Terrible Jobber.
Oh, Dale LaPerouse?
I'm pretty sure this was Dale LaPerouse in a Liz Mark outfit. Like, he was... As bad as Liz Mark Jr. is, he was 10 times worse here, if that's even possible. He was so bad.
His rope running was terrible.
Oh.
Now, I've seen a lot of guys who run the most badly and it takes them 5 steps to get across the ring. It took Liz Mark 5 steps to get across the logo. Saturn eventually said, fuck this shit. Hit a Falcon Arrow and a DVD for the win. Not a minute too soon.
Dude.
Had a Paige Goldberg promo. More Nitro Girls. The show is 100% useless so far.
It gets more useless.
Speaking of the cat.
Well, we got to say one thing about all of this Halloween Havoc stuff that you've been talking about that they do throughout this show. Their buy rates weren't doing so well. And they paid the Warrior $1 million to get through this storyline and do a job for Hulk Hogan at this pay-per-view. So they were pushing this fucking pay-per-view so hard. They were desperate to get their money out of this pay-per-view. So yes, we saw 25 ads on this show.
So Cat does his promo, warning Kaz, I am a 3-time world karate champion, blah, blah, blah. Somewhere in here he called him Jackie Chan, which ordinarily...
Well, they had Jackie Chan on the show a couple of weeks ago.
They did. He said hi to Larry.
They're trying to get Jackie Chan.
That too. Ordinarily, I would say this would be a terribly racist insult, but honestly, anyone being called Jackie Chan is a compliment. So...
I love that Shat's out there and he's doing all this bullshit about how he's a 3-time karate champion, being all annoying. Then they go to Mike Tenay and he goes, do you know that all of Shat's claims are real? He played in the NFL. He was a 3-time world karate champion, even got drafted to a pro soccer team. Like...
Why would you do that?
Okay, cool.
Cat in this match used a rib claw.
He did.
He had the man down and applied an iron claw to the ribs.
Welcome to 85.
It was a rib, in fact. And then Kaz tried something off the top, and Cat hit him with a kick, and Kaz fell in Cat's leg. I thought it was going to break.
That was supposed to be the finish. But it was so shitty.
It almost was the end of Cat's career.
Shat was like, that looked like shit.
So he hit a different kick.
I'm going to do another boring kick. Then I'll pin him.
He cut a promo about how great he was, and then Sonny Ono, who had come out with Kaz, was impressed and tried to recruit the Cat.
Yeah. Sonny Ono finally figured out this guy was a karate champ. Just like me. I'm going to go with him now.
Not only that, this guy wins every week.
Well, there's that too.
My guys haven't won in months. Nitro party clips. I've never seen so many shirtless children. Very disturbing. Yet another Paige Goldberg promo. Jerry Flynn versus Juventud Guerrera.
Oh boy.
What are you talking about?
I had forgotten what a fun wrestler Jerry Flynn was.
Dude, I expected this to be a disaster. And it was actually really good.
Okay, here's my biggest complaint. The thing you complain about all the time. The finish of this match was a Michinoku driver on Jerry Flynn, who is 18 inches taller than Juventud.
He's a big dude.
He's very powerful.
Oh, get out of here.
Craig's a leverage throw.
Yeah.
You get center of balance.
How so?
You get center of gravity under the other guy.
You know what a Michinoku driver is?
I
You
used
lift
to
the
use
guy
it.
up and then you just fall
What's
down.
your finish? Do you know what it is?
Listen, to do a body slam, you got to lift the guy up and then you got to turn him over. Michinoku driver, you just lift him up and you just fall down. That's the move.
Brian.
I believe Hoovy could hit that.
Oh, please.
I like when Larry said, I think it was, Disco Inferno came out. I'm sorry. Disco said, Juventud had been wrestling on a trampoline in Tijuana. Clearly, he's never actually seen Lucha Libre rings, which are a slab of granite with a thin tarp on top.
Yeah, this was not a trampoline.
No.
He also called him Hoovenstooge.
Yes. Yes, he did. So anyway, yeah, Jerry Flynn had that very fun match with Saturn a week or two ago. Had a very fun match with Juventud here, and they got dropped on his head and lost. Thumbs up.
I liked it.
I was with it till the finish, dude.
Mike Tenay is outside interviewing children about who's going to win Goldberg or Dallas Page.
Oh my God.
No.
The little children were Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton and a bunch of stupid WWE announcers. Did you hear these kids, what they were saying? It was like scripted WWE bullshit.
It was very cliched.
Like, DDP has overcome all of the odds. He's surely going to hit the diamond cutter on the big Bill Goldberg.
Line.
It's like, what?
Line.
So finally, it's all kids.
If someone would have said Monster Among Men, that would have totally made this segment.
It's all kids, and then Tenay looks over and spots a woman in a DDP shirt. And she asks him, and she also says something about how Paige is going to do it. He's going to get the diamond cutter. Is going to get the win. And Tenay says, okay. He starts to wrap it up and talk about whatever's next. And then the woman holds up her sign. It didn't all make it on camera, but enough of it did. You could read what it said, which was, hey, Hogan, shake your, and then she wrote _ICK, shake your ick and take your pick. This made it on Nitro.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it means.
No idea what that means.
Well,
yes, Craig?
well, he's, when you find a girl, you got to pick her,
I see.
and then you can shake your ick at her.
So she had the wrong order.
I think so.
Okay.
So she was hitting on Hulk.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know what she's worried about because remember Hogan under oath said he did not have a 10-inch penis.
What the hell does that have to do with her sign?
Well, I'm just saying. Maybe
She didn't
she's-
specify the sign. She just said shake it and then
might-
take
Say
it.
shake your 10-inch
might
dick.
be very disappointed in Mr. Bullet.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe she'd be overjoyed.
Yet another Hogan Warrior video package. You know, when it's WrestleMania week and we have to watch NXT, and NXT is all in wherever Mania is, not doing a show, that's what this Nitro felt like.
And this show isn't for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Dude.
Wrath versus V105. Wrath squashed him and won with a meltdown.
Meltdown was awesome.
Fans are totally getting into this.
You just smashed this dude.
Somebody brought up that Chronic is coming pretty soon.
I think it's years away.
I think it's like a year away.
It's not soon. It's inevitable. They're coming.
Chronic.
It's not soon, but it's too soon. I can tell you that much.
Right.
We should watch their match against Taker and Kane.
Dude, we probably watching it wouldn't be that bad.
No.
I don't know.
I have seen it since it's happened.
I don't know.
This is a match so bad that The Undertaker breaks character and throws a tantrum in the middle.
Vinny, you gave that War Games a quarter fucking star.
I guess that's that. Let's see how it goes. Hey, guess what happened next? There's a Hogan Warrior video package.
There sure was, yeah.
I did something wrong somewhere in my life, and this show was my punishment.
Let's talk about the goddamn stupidest segment I've seen in my life.
Oh, we'll get to the Wolfpack. Let's not overlook a second segment interviewing fans what will happen. One guy not only picked a winner for Paige Goldberg, he booked a finish. He said Goldberg's going to go for the jackhammer. Paige will counter it with a diamond cutter and win. And I bet that's what happens in the match.
I bet you it's still real to him.
Might be. Okay, we can talk about the Wolfpack now.
David Wills called into Observer Live today.
Oh, how's he doing?
Yeah, the it's still real to me guy.
Mm-hmm.
So this fucking Humvee shows up. The Wolfpack gets out. Sting is angry because he was a fucking idiot last week again. They're looking for somebody. So they
Shivani
finally
suggested perhaps they're trying to find the ring.
they finally end up
Spinal Tap.
in the NWO Black and White Geek locker room, and a brawl breaks out.
Kinda.
So they start fighting, and I'm figuring, well, we see this all the time. Security's going to show up, go to commercial.
Oh, no.
A fucking million policemen show up. We're not even talking Doug Dillinger and security, but also a bunch of policemen. They proceed to have the longest, funniest, stupidest brawl ever. The cops are bumping around. The cops are
They had no
pleasantly
idea what to do.
asking these guys to stop.
Yes.
They're like, hey guys, can we stop? And this brawl just goes on and on and on. Cops are being shoved to the side. Cops are falling on their ass. Wolfpack is still beating on Vincent or whatever. And I'm like, they have fucking nightsticks and guns.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on right here? They go to a commercial. I'm like, that was the stupidest thing I ever saw in my life. They come back from commercial. It's still going.
Yes.
It's been going now for 5 minutes. Sting finally finds Bret Hart, and he begins to beat his ass. They brawl their way outside. The cops are following them, asking them, guys, can we please knock it off now? Can we please stop doing this brawling and this fighting and this assault? Sting gets in a forklift. He proceeds to lift the NWO limo off of the earth. He begins to lift it into the air. Sting, not a trained forklift operator.
They're not that difficult.
Steve Borden. As he's lifting this goddamn thing, Nash is running around on the other side of the car.
Bad place to be.
Bobby Heenan's begging him, be careful. What are you doing over there? Scott Hall, by the way, in the news, had been arrested. He was outside a strip club.
That's right.
He keyed some guy's limo.
I see.
So I guess they thought it'd be funny to spend God knows how much money to destroy this fucking limo.
$2,000 in paint damage.
Yeah, think about that. There was $2,000 in paint damage to key the guy's car. Mm-hmm. So imagine how much money they spent to completely destroy this limo.
They claimed $100,000.
They tipped the limo over, and then once the limo is upside down, have you ever tried to drive a car that's upside down?
Can't say I have.
Only once.
It's hard, all right? Because it's fucking upside down.
Sure.
Well, to make sure they couldn't drive off, Sting made sure to slash the tires.
Right. Yes. Of all the things that have been done, it's not just upside down, like sitting on top. The roof is smashed in. All the windows are smashed. This car is done. Kevin Nash is now standing in the underbelly, whacking random mechanical things with a hammer.
And then Sting goes up to a female officer. Do you happen to have a knife?
Well, first he said that. I guess he thought someone would have a knife here. So he starts to call Kevin Nash. Kev! And Kevin doesn't answer. So Sting tries his other name. Sexy! He called him sexy. And he says, knife! Knife! Nash is like, I didn't bring a fucking knife. So Sting eventually...
Well, luckily these damn cops had brought knives.
Somewhere...
And they were nice enough to give their knife to this fucking painted up vandal. He slices the tires.
For why?
Cops are...
The easiest thing to replace. You can go buy new tires right now.
Cops are walking around.
Let Schwab install them for free.
Completely impotent.
Not free.
This was so stupid.
Isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This was so stupid.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Did you mention... Let's go back to that pre-commercial horrible brawl in the locker room. That went forever and ever. So these were real cops who I'm sure have broken up fights before via mace and billy clubs and cuffs. But here they weren't supposed to do that, so they had no idea what to do, so they're just standing there. And Scott Steiner, who is insane, is trying to get them to do something. So just start shoving men and women left and right, hoping one of them will fire back and none of them do.
Yes, he shoved a heavy-set female police officer.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. The fight keeps going. Guys just walking around in the back. There's no one to hit, so they just mosey through. They go into the hallway. LaPark is out there in street clothes, but his mask. So he's got like jeans and a blue t-shirt and his arms are crossed. You're like, you see the skull just poke around the corner and look down the hallway and then poke back. Oh, God, what else? It went forever. We mentioned that part, right? That's important. It went forever. And, yeah, they beat up the limo. There was a joke. Larry had a line in here about keying the limo, so there you go. And that was finally that. Damien versus Hector Garza. We had Fun Lucha for 1 minute. Then Eddie Guerrero enters the ring with a microphone, and the ref calls for the DQ.
This is so dumb. And then Mike Tenay, because no one knows what's going on. Mike Tenay goes, isn't he supposed to be in Japan for an extended tour?
Yep.
Did he actually say Japan or the Orient?
He said Japan.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah.
I'm stunned.
And then Larry. See, before Eddie came out, Hector Garza and Damien actually did a couple of moves. And of course, Larry has to just bury all the Mexicans. And he goes, these guys are fun to watch, but they don't have a long life expectancy. I'm fixing to just write this rant. And then Eddie comes out, and I realize, 2 of the 3 guys in here are, in fact, dead.
There's that.
Now, granted, one guy had a heart attack, one guy had cancer, but, yeah, not the right time to do that rant.
Well, he didn't know.
He is a goddamn idiot, though. You know how many of these luchadors are still wrestling today?
We did this rant once.
Yeah.
We went through and checked.
If you went through and took all of the American wrestlers, and you went through and took all of the luchadors, and percentage-wise, what percentage, which is a larger percentage of guys still working today, it would probably be the luchadors. Virtually guaranteed.
So Eddie starts talking to Hector and Damien. He asks them, what has Eric Bischoff ever done for you? I thought, well, they are having a match on the #1 wrestling program in the entire world. That seems significant to me.
They're making a lot more than they make in Tijuana.
Yep. But Eddie explains they only ever get to wrestle each other. They don't get to wrestle anyone else to move up the card. He says, it's true you guys are cramming 5 or 6 guys in your rental car and 3 or 4 guys in your hotel room. And they nod because they are geeks. And he says none of us can rise above Eddie or Eric and Hogan unless we all team up. And he passes them t-shirts, and he introduces themselves as the Latino World Order.
Fans booed mightily. Need another faction on this show, you see.
Yeah. So let's count. That's the NWO, the Wolfpack. I guess the Flock is dead, but the Horsemen are back. Mm-hmm. The LWO. I guess that's it. Shivani says, let's go to Mike Tenay. Instead, we see the Wolfpack. We're outside having a huddle. They seem to come to some sort of plan, and then Tenay arrives to interview them. And Ash tells Tenay, we are looking for Scott Hall. He is at a bar somewhere. We know 4 or 5 places he could be. We're going to go bar to bar to find him.
This is a show-long storyline.
Oh.
I just want you to remember, this is a show-long storyline.
Yeah.
As we work our way to the payoff.
Yes. Tenay and the camera crew want to tag along, and the Wolfpack didn't say yes. Basically said you can follow if you want to. And that was that. And we'll get back to this shortly. Psychosis versus Kidman.
This was actually a great match. Yes, but I will say that Kidman last week got destroyed by Scott Hall. Randomly, just beaten clean in the middle and ping-ponged around like a geek. Comes out here and nobody gives a shit about him. Now, granted, maybe that had nothing to do with what happened last week, but I couldn't help but think they treated this guy like a geek last week. He comes out this week, and nobody gives a shit about him. They had a very, very good match. They actually got the crowd into it there at the very end. But man, they did a number on Kidman. Did a number on him with that Scott Hall match.
Yeah.
They did not make him a bigger star.
No.
Getting the rub from Scott Hall.
No. You know who else did a number on Kidman was Psychosis.
Oh, jeez.
There was a point very early in this match where Shivani said Kidman it was, and this is a quote, trying to fight off the advances of Psychosis. Mm-hmm. And I chuckled and said, what kind of match am I watching here? The more I watched this, I realized he was right. Kidman was fighting for his life in there. Psychosis gives him a gourd buster, drops him right in his head. Comes off the top rope, kicks him right in his head. Throws him over the top rope, Kidman's back smashes into the apron.
What about the moonsault where he hit him with his knee?
Does a moonsault and knees him right in the head.
Well, at the end of the day, Kidman got his revenge.
I guess. Because Psychosis tries to top rope Rana. Kidman hangs onto the ropes. And Kidman does a shooting star, almost a knee drop, really. He does a shooting star, and he comes down right across Psychosis' sternum. It was a very good match if you ignore the fact they both nearly died several times.
You know, Neville pulls off his shooting star press absolutely perfectly every time. Mero, if you watch on Raw, pulls it off perfectly every time. Kidman is very, very hit or miss. He's always a little cattywampus. He's always a little bit crooked. It only gets worse as time goes on.
Kidman looks so cool until the landing. And then you just cross your fingers.
Well, he doesn't go like completely straight.
Yeah.
Like he jumps and he kind of twists kind of a little bit. And,
yeah.
Trust me, in gymnastics, this would not be a 10.
That's right.
It'd be a solid 6.
That's right.
Or Warrior. Stupid scores are nowadays.
Would you like to go on a rant about that?
No, it's just so stupid. It's like now it's out of a 16, but this one's out of a 14. It's stupid. Just do 1 to 10.
Warrior does a backstage monologue.
Yeah, they kept him out of the arena because he was booed unmercifully last week.
So he's in this room and there's strange flashing lights everywhere. It looked like he talked for like 4 hours and they edited it down because there were cuts throughout, like fade cuts. So he's talking about their first match with Hogan in Toronto. He talks about that for a while. Then I followed him for about 20% of this. And then he's ranting about the power of the individual, the power of the pack, taking control of your life, fulfilling your destiny. He says, when I sleep at night, I am very peaceful because I am wreaking havoc in Hogan's dreams. And he snorted.
Pretty much sucked.
Scott Steiner is surrounded by trophies.
This was awesome.
It was. He cuts a promo on Rick. First, as he's talking, there's shots of the two of them as kids, like floating by on the screen. It's an NWO promo, it's all in black and white, and a bunch of camera cuts and stuff. Says, Rick, when I was a little brother, I was protected you. I was a little brother protecting you from the bullies. Well, that free ride's over.
My favorite part of this is he's running over all of his trophies, and he's like, I won this. This is from a bodybuilding contest. This was a one-on-one, blah, blah, blah. And as he's going through all of these trophies and things that he's won in his life, finally, perfectly at random, he just goes, you got one of these too. And then he just keeps going.
Yes.
Like,
well, he did have a point. Like,
that was very nice of you.
All these singles championships are his, and all the tag team championships, yes, Rick's got a trophy, but he was the one who really won them.
Sure.
He says, I was always the star of that team. I was the one who carried that team. I was the one people paid to see. And as he's saying this, they are showing clips of young Scott Steiner, and he was telling the Lord's truth. Young Scott Steiner was unbelievable. I forget that sometimes. And finally he says, I've got all these trophies, and Rick Steiner at Halloween Havoc, you're going to be my next trophy. This is a really good promo.
It paled in comparison to what was next. Mike Tenay is in his own car.
Yeah.
There's a cameraman in the back seat filming over his shoulder.
With a giant light. How he can see out this windshield, I don't know.
Tenay is driving, he's following the Hummer, and he's narrating to the guy in the back while every now and then glancing back at him as he's narrating. I want, like, Mike Tenay should have been in his car on every single Nitro, following somebody somewhere. It was so awesome. Just completely wacky.
He's looking back and saying, I can still see them. They're right ahead of me.
I'm going to try and keep following them.
We're going to a bar, I guess?
Yeah, we're going somewhere. I'm driving this car.
Two things. He was so totally, at this point, it changes. He was so totally the uncool hanger-on, desperate to play with the cool kids for a night.
That's what made it so awesome.
Yeah, yes.
He's just a fella doing his job.
Two, they've been driving for like an hour at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Where is this bar? Then, Scott Steiner and Buff Bagwell come out for a promo.
This was unbelievable. This was so great.
Steiner's promo is a lot of the same stuff he said in the video package. And finally, Rick comes out. He says Scotty and Buff are sissies who are afraid to fight him.
Okay, this did start out shitty because Rick had to make sure to say, it was in this same building, Buff, where you got hurt for real.
Yes.
And now you want to come out and make a joke of it.
Yeah.
He says, I got someone here who doesn't think it's a joke. So he proceeds to call out Judy Bagwell.
Buff Bagwell's mom.
Buff's mom. And the crowd popped for this.
Oh, yeah.
And she strides down to the ring and she jumps up on the apron. And she's not a wrestler. She's a mom. Clearly a fan. They give her a mic, and God bless her, like, she could not keep that goddamn mic by her face. So, like, the audience, I'm sure, couldn't hear half of this. But her bug eyes and her passion and what little they could hear about it, she got such an amazing reaction. Talking about how your father and I were watching this on TV. We didn't know if you'd ever walk again. We were with you at the hospital. You got 10,000 letters from fans. You called me crying at the Georgia Dome how you needed my support one more time. It's not Rick's fault. She's just on fire. Buff grabs the mic, talking about this decision that he made, and he says, what did he say?
He said,
he's talking about how he supported them.
I support the whole family. Without me, you don't eat.
That's right. She gets in the ring and she said, when you were a little buff, I slapped you once, and you told me never to slap you again. And then she rears back and she slaps him across the face. At which point, Scott Steiner, whose gimmick is he is a crazy fucker, he proceeds to be a crazy fucker. He grabs her by the wrist, and like a total crazy man, he screams, "You're not my mom! Get the hell out of my ring!" Rick jumps Scott from behind.
Well, yes.
Knocks him to the ground. Judy grabs Buff by the earlobe, drags him out of the ring. The place is going nuts.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, you know what this was? We've seen this a million times in wrestling. This was going to be a one-time deal.
Oh, no.
But she was so good, they decided, we've got to get her back.
Yeah.
And worse, once they got her back, she figured out that she was a star.
Yes.
And it's all downhill from there. But let it be known, for all of you that joke about Judy Bagwell on a pole matches and all of the other bullshit and Buff's mom, her big debut was fucking great. This was awesome.
Couldn't agree more.
If it had not been for Vince McMahon in the hospital, Judy Bagwell would have been the star of these two shows on this Monday night.
So they go to break, and they come back and say, during the break, Scott Steiner and Brian Adams attacked Rick Steiner, and now the match is going on. Brian Adams and Rick Steiner. Scott's out there for a while because we need somebody who's entertaining, but then J.J. Dillon ejects him, and then this match got awful. There's a long chin lock. They fight out of that, and then Brian Adams decides it's time for a long nerve pinch. Now, first I thought he was choking him. Rick Steiner's lying on his back over by the ropes, and Adams' hand is like on his... One hand's on his like chest area and near his throat. I thought it was supposed to be a chokehold, and the ref was not counting 5 and it went forever. I was confused. Then they explained it's a shoulder pinch, and I looked in.
You pinch that nerve.
And Adams had like 2 fingers dug into Rick's armpit or something. And Rick's lying there and not moving.
Let me tell you something. I've been to the masseuse many times, and when they do that weird pec massage where they reach into your armpit and they squeeze where your pec connects to your shoulder and they like pinch, that fucking sucks.
Sure.
So I buy this hold. I'd have submitted.
So Rick's lying on his back. Brian Adams is kneeling over him. He's on one knee, got one hand on Rick's chest, the other in the armpit. No one's moving.
Not even the crowd.
There's no movement. Nothing happens. There's nothing going on. 54 seconds go by. I'm just staring at my computer saying, is anything going to happen? I thought my computer was broke. I thought my signal froze. No, they just sat there. And then it gets worse. Rick finally starts to make a comeback. He whips Brian Adams in. I don't know what Rick was trying.
I do.
I'm quite certain Rick doesn't know.
He does it all the time.
I'm sure Brian Adams doesn't know.
He does it all the time. It's a power slam off the ropes, but he does it weird. Like, he doesn't do like a real big rotating power slam. He does it in every match.
Yep.
Brian Adams had no idea what was going on.
Okay, so 2 of us.
It was Adams. He just went up and didn't know what to do, so he went straight down on his head.
So he's coming straight down on his head. Rick realizes, oh no, he's going straight down on his head, and does his best to break his fall. So Craig tweeted out a still shot. In live action, it's not that scary.
No.
Because Rick's he's going down slowly, but it looks bad.
Oh, it looks really bad.
It looks very, very, very bad. And right after that, Rick wins with the very same bulldog that paralyzed Buff in the first place. A terrible wrestling match. Terrible.
Yeah, but it got a pop, and Tony put it over as a big win for Rick Steiner.
Okay, it's time for the pub crawl. The Wolfpack pub crawl. Here's what happens. Mike Tenay is there. The camera guy gets out. There's the Humvee. They go into what appears to be a hotel. They go through some doors. They note, hey, there's bathrooms here. They keep on walking. And they walk. And they walk. And they walk. It's a big-ass fucking hotel bar. There's tables everywhere. You can see the bartender yonder in the distance. And they walk, and they walk, and they walk. I don't know what actual pop song they're playing on the speakers here, but they edited it in with the most hokey blues, edited over with the hokiest blues music of all time. So Nash spots the pool tables. And apparently, Scott Hall's a big fan of billiards. He tries to ambush Hall. He sneaks up to the corner, and he pokes his head around, and there's no one there. And they look around. There is no Scott Hall. They all turn. They walk back. No one in the bar, by the way, reacts like these are major stars.
Or the camera.
Or the camera. Well, that's a good point. They may have just been hammered. They walk, and they walk, and they walk, and they get back in the Hummer, and they drive away. This made TV.
They do like 5 of these segments just so we don't waste all of our time here. One after another, they go. There's nobody there. The best part is Mike Tenay is there. He's got a camera crew. He's got a light. He's documenting this for these guys. They still don't let him ride with them.
That is true. That is true.
They got a big, giant fucking Humvee. And they're like, just follow us in your fucking car.
Bring your Tercel.
Because you ain't going with us.
Yeah. So, I was already heating the show.
Well, I'll recap it quick.
Okay.
Hogan and Eric came out. Hogan vowed to beat the Warrior.
Didn't say a thing about his limo.
Said like 15 minutes. Took him 15 minutes to say this.
Dude.
The only highlight here is when he threatened to kick Warrior's rear end.
Fighting words.
Went for a long time. Time for a video package, because there hadn't been one in 3 minutes. It was a 4 Horsemen video package. I don't know if this music was edited in, but it's the 4 Horsemen, and there's this funky dance song playing with somebody, what did they say? Some guy demanded a fat beat.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe they're delivering fat beatings. Maybe that's what he meant. Kanyon and DDP.
This was so bizarre.
That's a good word.
This was like a modern match where
Totally.
like they did a bunch of moves, they kicked out of a bunch of near falls, they teased finishes that there weren't finishes. Anyway, here's the thing. DDP laid out a great match. If your plan is to go in there and have a great match with Kanyon so that the people will cheer,
We're on the same wavelength here.
and everybody will go crazy and they'll go like, man, DDP and Kanyon had a great match on Nitro. However, DDP is getting a championship match
Right.
against the utterly unstoppable monster Goldberg.
Right.
And he goes in there and he sells and he sells and he sells for Kanyon.
Yeah.
And then finally, Raven jumps in with a microphone for the disqualification.
Yes.
In context, this was so stupid.
Yes.
Like, it was a really good match, but for the purpose that it was designed to serve, I mean, it should have been designed to serve. It was so dumb.
You're not even mentioning Lodi's out there and he gets involved, the ref gets distracted. Raven hits the ring and hits Paige with a cutter. The whole point of this Goldberg feud is Paige has one bullet in his pocket, one bullet in his gun, and if he can hit this diamond cutter, maybe he can beat the monster. Well, Raven hits Paige with a cutter and Paige just kicks out.
DDP should have beaten he should have beaten Kanyon
With the cutter.
in 1 minute with the diamond cutter. He should have been beating everybody in 1 minute with the diamond cutter. This guy is what they call a weak challenger.
In storyline.
When you have a weak challenger, you have to do everything you can to make the people believe that he can win. And the whole thing is, everything they did at the end, where the heels beat on DDP, Goldberg runs down, they both clear the ring together, and then they have a stare down. You could have done the same goddamn thing by having DDP win with the cutter in a minute, Raven jumps him after the match, and you do the same thing.
Yeah.
Could have done all of that.
You're only missing one thing, Brian. This is a 3-hour show.
Doesn't matter. You could have had
A video package.
Mike Tenay go to a 5th bar.
Now, I will talk about the post-match, because for all the reasons Brian has critiqued this, I kind of hated the match. In a vacuum, it was a fine wrestling match, but for what it's supposed to do is counterproductive. But then, they're beating on Paige. Goldberg hits the ring, hits an A-plus spear on Kanyon. Kanyon takes a great bump for it, too. It looked awesome. And Goldberg pops up, and if that spear was an A+, the punch to the mouth he gave to Lodi was an A++. And then he hits Lodi with a jackhammer. Raven hits Page with the diamond cutter, and we get the Goldberg-Page stare down, and they're screaming at each other, and the fans are screaming, and JJ's there to make sure they don't fight. The post-match was awesome.
I want to mention two things. First off, going back to those clowns on Raw, when they beat up Shaggy, 2Dope, and Violent J. Violent J is flat on his back, and he's a little fat. And one of the headbangers, he doesn't stand over him and hold the sides of the chair and drive the edge like into Violent J's stomach like you always see somebody do from that position. He stands next to him. He lifts the chair high over his head like he's going to do a normal chair shot, and he fucking brings it down and smashes Violent J right in the belly with this chair. I laughed and laughed and laughed. Violent J didn't protect himself.
No.
He laid flat on his back with his belly in the air, and this headbanger just smashed him in the stomach with this chair.
You just forgot that and had to mention...
Well, I remember because you were talking about the punch to the face.
I see. That's great spot.
For some reason, I remembered that.
Well, it was awesome.
And by the way, the other thing I wanted to mention was everything that I said about this match is a critique. Earlier in this show, we had 2 segments where fans were asked who would win, and a bunch of damn fans thought the DDP was going to win. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he wasn't a weak challenger.
Pub crawl update.
They strike out again.
No, I want to talk about... No, I want to talk about this.
I'd be here all night.
Tenay turns to the camera and says, "They tried to ditch us." I bet they did. So going through this bar, it's a much worse bar than the other bar. Everyone still ignores them. There is no Scott Hall. Conan says, "Hey, let's go to a strip club." Kevin Nash, the buzzkill, says, "No." And they left. And this whole thing was so lame. Like the Wolfpack...
Well, hold on. That was also an inside reference. Kevin Nash said no because he said that Scott had been banned from every strip club in America. So the point was, why bother?
I see.
We ain't going to find him there. To Kevin Nash on this night, it was more important to beat up Scott Hall in a bathroom than to hang out with hot strippers.
Yeah. Now, the whole image of the Wolfpack is they're basically the cool heels, or at least the cool anti-heroes. They don't give a fuck. They're very relaxed. They're very laid back, and they're cool. So you'd think, hey, going to party with these guys would be awesome. Wrong. Their night of the town is drive around forever, go to a bar, walk around, don't do anything fun, leave. They were so lame.
Vinny, they're on a mission to find Scott Hall. Are you not paying attention?
Had the Disciple versus Lenny Lane.
It sucked.
This is Disciple's first match after being converted. And he came out wearing the exact same...
It was the second. He had another one last week.
I apologize. Came out wearing the exact same thing as when he was in the NWO.
He's still a disciple. I guess he's a disciple of Warrior now. Here's how they open things up. This is the spot they came up with. Lenny did a Warrior impression. He runs around screaming his head off and he shakes them ropes. And Disciple says, "I'll show you how it's done." And Disciple goes to do a better Warrior impression, but it's a trap and Lenny jumps in from behind. Yeah. They do this match. It's not very good. Disciple fires up like Warrior. Everyone boos. And Disciple wins with a stunner. And he goes to get a promo. Says he's done carrying Hogan's bags. He's his own man now and forever.
I bet you that's not true.
So he cuts his promo and he starts heading up the ramp. And Hulk Hogan starts running after him. Because Hogan is now angry and offended that the Disciple is no longer going to carry his fucking bags.
He's gotten to.
So he runs after him, they go backstage, and Disciple disappears in this room, and Hogan's running after him like Hulk Hogan, and he's screaming like, "Come back here, you idiot!" He follows him into this room, it's empty, and for some reason, the room is empty, but Hulk Hogan decides, I have got to look in the mirror.
He's a narcissist.
So he just starts looking in the mirror, and in the mirror appears... the Warrior.
By the way, the announcers could see...
Let's get into this.
...the image.
But here's the thing. So Hogan can see the image.
Yeah.
Right.
Eric cannot.
No.
Right.
So the storyline is that Hulk Hogan is out of his mind.
Sure.
However, yes, the announcers could see Warrior, as well as all of us.
So we're all out of Hogan's mind.
We're either all out of our minds, like Hogan, or Hogan is right and Eric is out of his mind.
Or Eric is blind.
Which doesn't play into the storyline at all.
No.
This was so dumb.
Hogan sees Warrior, freaks out, thinks Warrior's behind him. He's not there. Looks back at the mirror, cuts this gibberish promo because he's supposed to be Looney Tunes. The announcers are like, look, there's the Warrior. I see the Warrior in the mirror. Bischoff says, what are you looking at? Announcers go silent because nobody's smarting them up. But yes, in storyline, based on how this actually went down, you, I, the announcers, all the fans, figments of Hogan's imagination.
Yeah, we're all nuts.
No, we're figments of Hogan's imagination and he's nuts.
Sure, something like that.
It sucked. It was really stupid. It was really, really stupid. Back to the pub crawl. Tenay notes what I had noted. Every bar they go to was shittier than the last. This last one, I seriously think it may have been somebody's house. So Nash walks in. He starts punching somebody. And I thought, I hope that's Hall. It was. So they have this brawl.
Well, this was the weirdest one yet because this was the first one where as soon as they went in, not only did the fans acknowledge them and act like they were big stars, but they're like looking straight into the camera and they're mugging for the camera. And I'm like, so the final one where you're going to do the big brawl, you didn't smarten anybody up? Did these fans not know this was going to happen?
Well, they were watching Nitro on the screens.
They were just totally gobsmacked.
Small women who didn't look old enough to be there running up and waving to the camera as these two giants have a brawl on the pool table behind them. They disappear into the men's room. Nothing happens for a while.
It was so weird. They go into the commode, according to Tony Schiavone, and Nash throws Hall into the bathroom and they shut the door. And Tenay desperately wants to go into the bathroom with him. And first...
That is weird.
First, the door opens, and Nash is like, well, just get out of here.
It takes like 3 minutes.
Sure. But Nash waves him off first. Like, get out of here. It's kind of like, well, what did you want us to see this for? Like, and then after he waves everybody off, then he changes his mind. He goes, come in here. So he calls in Tenay with the camera, and literally in the bathroom is Scott Hall on his knees with his head in the toilet. And Nash makes some comment about sad state of affairs or whatever. And then, after going to 5 different establishments, during WCW Monday Nitro, he put the guy's head in the toilet and then they just go home. That was the payoff.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's what they did.
That's what they came up with. It's one of those things where even if you wrote this all down on paper, it doesn't sound good.
No. And then Bischoff came out. Bischoff assures us all Hogan is fine, and then he switches gears, starts to run down Ric Flair, makes fun of a southern accent, which Ric Flair doesn't have. Crowd demands Flair. Bischoff says he's not here, he's a coward. Out comes Arn Anderson, says, I am the horseman in charge of head games. The champ is here, let's bring him on down.
I thought that was Flair's job.
Ooh, indeed. Eventually out comes Reed Flair. He's 10. He is incredibly nervous. He has his wrestling singlet on, he has his medal on, and God bless him, because it's not his fault he's 10, this bowl cut he had. I thought he was actually wearing a headband. It was the shadow of his hair. So, he also noted the Mo Howard haircut. So, he announces, at the behest of Arn, that he is there to handle his dad's light work. He does a couple of duck walks like Bob Backlund used to do, the old amateur wrestling training thing. And Eric just asks what's going on. And next thing you know, Reed is tackling Bischoff and taking him down repeatedly. And when Bischoff is finally able to get to his feet, Reed goes hide behind Arn and does the Flair strut and the hair thing. Arn makes fun of Bischoff for being taken down twice by a 10-year-old. He was happy, and he goes to leave. They go to break, they come back. Bischoff is irate. He's in the ring. Elizabeth is in the ring. He demands she call Ric Flair, get him in the ring. Eventually, she gets a hold of Beth, who the announcers say is Flair's wife. And Bischoff screams at her that he wants Flair and he wants Flair now. And of course, the whole gimmick was he didn't want Flair. So they successfully made Bischoff angry enough to demand Flair. So Flair comes out. A bunch of NWO B teamers come out. The Horsemen brawl with them. They get fought away. And then David and Reed Flair hit the ring too, and they all celebrate, and that was that. And
David Flair,
I don't think it was his debut, but for his in-ring debut, actually probably was, for literally being in the ring. Only thing I'd add to this is that the Reed Flair stuff is like the Owen stuff. It's just all sad.
It is very, very sad. David in there is standing right next to Chris Benoit, and literally the only things I remember about David Flair's entire career, I remember he had a bunch of really horrible matches. I remember he introduced us to Tori Wilson, and I remember that Chris Benoit absolutely beat the shit out of him in one of the greatest squash matches ever. It's going to be a while before we see it.
Is it Tori or was it Stacy?
It's Tori.
Continue.
Yeah. We'll see. He brings in a hot blonde, everyone.
I remember that.
Yeah. Main event is supposed to be Sting versus Bret Hart. Sting comes out. Bret comes out, gets halfway down the aisle, just goes to the back. Sting goes after him. Now, you will recall that this whole storyline is that Sting is an idiot. Well, here is Sting. His friends are out in the town, hopefully drinking it up by now. Larry points out, all your friends are gone. This is a trap. But Sting is stupid, so he charges ahead.
It's definitely Tori.
Okay.
I ain't forgetting that. You kidding me?
They brawl back towards Hogan's dressing room, and they start fighting amongst tables, and what ensues is the lamest 5-minute backstage brawl.
It was so bad.
Like, Sting gets suplexed through a table, and Bret goes, he puts a chair around the knee, but then drops the trash can on the chair very clearly in a way that would not hurt the knee at all. They keep on fighting and fighting. Sting's down. Bret goes over like a golf cart to run him over, but he can't start it, so he just gets out, and they keep fighting. This was like a Naked Gun spoof of a Steve Austin backstage fight.
Yeah, at one point he went to grab a trash can, but it was actually anchored to the wall.
Sting grabs a trash can. It is roped down. If Steve Austin, this happened to him, he would have just torn off the whole pillar.
Yeah.
Sting just puts down the trash can and walks away. They're fighting, and like one guy, Doug Dillinger, walks up, and at this point both guys say, I guess I'm done, and they walk their separate directions. And Bret walks in one door, and Sting walks down a hallway. Everyone in the crowd just starts to boo because they did not get their main event match, and the show ends. This was so lame.
At one point, Sting had Bret in the Scorpion Deathlock, and he just sat there, and the whole time Zbyszko is telling him, he's not back far enough. It's never going to work.
Yeah, Larry's burying his technique on what was actually a very, very good Scorpion Deathlock on the cement. Because as we all know, if it's on the cement or on a table, hurts. It's always worse.
The backstage stuff on this show was so bad.
Can you imagine being there live at this show and you're promised that match and you don't get to see any of it?
I only ever went to one WCW show, and it was Spring Stampede in Tacoma. It was actually a great show.
It was an awesome show.
But I watched these Nitros, and I just think, what would it be like to be there? And it's hard for me to process. They're so weird.
Dude, at the time, they were still selling tons of tickets for these shows. Don't look at me, dude. I don't know. But I do know that actually Craig and I are both right. David Flair ended up with both Stacy and Tori Wilson.
Oh, there you go.
Man, what a life.
She wore that tiny...
Yes, Miss Hancock.
Yes, that's her.
That's right. Well, there you go. We have that to look forward to.
Legs for days.
Few highlights still to come, but only a few. All right, everybody, that is it. We are out of time. We'll be back on Thursday with part 2 of Ultima Lucha Tres, NXT, Granny, Observer Live tomorrow with a special guest, and a lot more. So check it out, everybody. That's it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Adios.